Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining. The market is popping back up, and we are seeing a lot of big movement this morning. China stocks are exploding to the upside, like BABA, and you could say QUEB, FXI, and anything to do with China really is recovering pretty well. I saw something very interesting, Tom, and that's that Charlie Munger, who works with Warren Buffett, is actually doubling down on his BABA position. So I thought that was pretty interesting, where in a time where you see a ton of negative news with these China stocks, someone who has consistently, beat the market for so many years, he's buying BABA right now. So I just thought that was interesting, and I didn't see too much coverage of that, at least on like major media outlets.
Yeah, I actually didn't see that either. And that's a pretty good revelation, Mike. If Charlie Munger's buying in, I mean, that does give me, honestly, a little bit more confidence to maybe buy this dip. And, if you see a billionaire trying to catch the bottom on something like BABA, I think it goes to show that there is some potential for these stocks to come back. And, in the end, China was just really hitting these companies with a lot of bad news. But all that we need is just a few months of China just kind of staying away. And I feel like this stock has a lot of potential to come back. I mean, they're in a great sector, the e-commerce sector. They're like a version of Amazon in a way. Obviously, they're not as good, but either way, they're in that type of sector that can really explode.
Alrighty, so across the board, stocks are up. We have the S&P 500 up like 0.85%, which is great to see. Tom, finally, my watch list is starting pretty deep in the green. Almost every stock is green except for Corsair. So yeah, every stock on my watch list is green except for Corsair, which is down slightly. But we have NEO leading the way up around 5%. So that's awesome to see. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you're watching, and we'll definitely take a look at them. And welcome all of you to the stream. Welcome Jamie, David, Gabriel, Vicky, Alex, J-Trade, Mike, Hunter, James, George, and Spacely. So thank you guys so much for joining. And we have Spacely coming in saying, morning team, hit that like button. You know it. The like button really helps us out. We greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. But Tom, NEO stocks popping up. We are above that $35 resistance. It has a lot of momentum. And I know this one has been on a lot of people's watch list for the past couple months, given that, it's been dipping quite a lot lately.
Yeah, and while it's been dipping, unfortunately, it just keeps going lower and lower for people. But, as long as we hold this $30 support, I feel like NIO can end up holding up pretty well. And, I think NIO is kind of coming up with those Chinese stocks today. I know they were kind of thrown into that Chinese sector. So it's just good to see them popping up. And if we see BABA, QUEB, and all those other Chinese stocks start to really turn around, I would really expect NIO to maybe get back up there as well, kind of like what we're seeing today. And like you said, though, they're just having a fantastic day, almost leading my watch list. Them and BABA keep switching places. But, I mean, either way, both stocks are on fire today. And it's really nice to see this out of NIO, especially like you said, with how much it's been dipping down lately. I think it's been putting a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. And as of right now, I would think that a lot of people might be buying back into it down here while it's right at these supports.
There we go. Welcome Sean to the stream. And looking at everything, one stock that's kind of popping off a little bit is Redfin. I'm a pretty big fan of this one for the long term, and it looks like a decent level for a dip buy.
Yeah, it does. Look at this on the 90-day, 15-minute chart. They actually bounced off this $47 area that we hit off of yesterday quite a few times, Mike, and it seems like that support's actually holding up pretty well. And if we pop back up above $50, I could see this one getting a pretty big move back to the upside. And, they've been kind of getting beaten down the past couple months too. So hopefully they can kind of get a nice turnaround going as the overall market starts to go back up with it.
And then let's look at Disney really quickly. So they're up like 1.5% on the day, but honestly, like I love the stock. I think they're, it's a great company and it's a great setup. But this setup has been like so annoying over like the past couple months, because like it'll like rocket up and then it'll just tank right back down to the 170 support. It'll explode up on solid earnings. It'll tank right back down. It'll try and break out again, and it just like is stuck in this range. And it's like, it seems like it's been just bouncing back and forth for like so long now. I'm waiting for that breakout.
Yeah, I know. It's just really been sitting here forever. And the good news is that at least it's been holding 170 and it hasn't been moving below it. But Yeah, I mean, that's the only good news I can see with it. It's been really flat. Really, I think we're just waiting for some good news with Disney Plus or something like that. There's just not really too much been going on with Disney, honestly, over the past few months. There hasn't been too many big numbers or anything like that coming out. And I think once we see some numbers or something, we'll end up seeing a pretty good move. But as of right now, like you said, it's been moving really slow. And like we saw today, a lot of stocks are gapping up. And of course, Disney's up 1.5%, but it's definitely like not no BABA, NIO, or Twitter, hitting those 2 to 5% marks.
You know it. So we're starting to see like Baba creep up there. Like it's up 5% on the day, but it's looking for more. We can see it's going for potential breakout. I know it just got rejected, but the market's literally been open for 4 minutes, and at the same time, like even the market's exploding.
Yeah, it is. And I could see Baba possibly trying to go for more, like you said. And it would be awesome to see because they've just been getting beaten down so hard. And like you said, the overall market had an awesome breakout, Mike. And I want to point this out for everybody. I think I talked about this in last night's video a lot, but the S&P 500 was trading between an awesome range of 427 and 436 up here with the upper resistance. And they finally broke this yesterday in after hours. And then we kind of confirmed off of it early on this morning. And we're just seeing a very nice continuation out after this breakout, which is awesome because we were down here for like 4 or 5 days. So it's really nice to see a solid move to the upside. And I'm really glad to see a lot of stocks breaking out with it, like AMD, NVIDIA, and a lot of these tech stocks that have really been getting hammered on lately.
Gotcha. Alrighty. So yeah, it's good to see a breakout, because the market's been all over the place this week, and I know it's been shaking a lot of people out, unfortunately. But like you said, Tom, it's been stuck in a range, and the movement so far is pretty awesome. I'm hoping to see that continue.
Yeah, and I wonder where we can get today with the SPY if it does continue. I know that there's a huge resistance up there around $444. Not saying we're going to get that high today, but hey, there is a big resistance up there, so there always is that small possibility.
Alrighty, so looking at everything, Tom, Neo's definitely leading the way for me. Like, I know I mentioned Redfin because I like them as a potential dip buy, but what stocks are you watching? Like, what are some of your favorite setups right now? And you can't say DraftKings.
Yeah, I can't say that one, right? They're just too solid. But yeah, they are pretty good down here, though, by the 50 support. But, one that I was actually looking at, and I know it's a little weird lately because there's all these whistleblowers going on with all these social media companies and everything like that and potential regulations. But, I'm really keeping an eye on Twitter right now. They've been bouncing off this bottom support around $58. And this is like the second solid green day in a row coming into the stock. And I could see a pretty good continuation on this one. I'm not saying that we're going to see it explode to new highs or anything like that. But, I could maybe see it hit 65 or maybe this high of $67 over the next couple of days. I see a pretty good resistance right there. And, it looks like it's moving pretty well off support. And if we see the SPY keep going up, I could see Twitter going up too. And another one I'm really eyeing up is AMD. They've been bouncing off that $100 support and they've been moving up very, very nicely. And I've been talking to some people in private, and I've been saying that if the SPY kind of broke that range, AMD would be an amazing stock to the upside. So with the SPY breaking it, AMD is looking like a pretty decent runner today.
Alrighty, good stuff. Then we have Alex coming in saying, finally some nice movement on the SPY. Grab some SPXL calls. So love to see it. The momentum's pretty strong this morning, and playing SPXL, it'll move pretty good. So love to see that. Neo, it looks like it's trying to break out. Like it's still like holding its ground. And honestly, I feel like the best way to go with this one is like maybe just like buy some shares and hold, because like it is at a pretty good level. And I remember when Neo was exploding to the upside at like $67 a share, everyone was like, man, I wish I loaded up at 50 or 60 or a level like that, obviously. But now that the stock fell a lot, like I feel like now's the time to buy in instead of like when it's exploding to the upside. So either way, I think it's good for a potential dip buy. Of course, it has its own unique risks, but hey, I think it's at a pretty good level.
Yeah, me too. And it's really getting close to these long-term supports. Like I know somewhere right around $30 to $32 is an amazing level. And even at 35, I mean, you're talking about this stock potentially going back up to $60 plus. So that's a pretty good gain if we went back up from here. And like Mike said, a lot of people always want to buy these stocks after they already went up. But really look at buying them down here on these dips. It creates such good opportunities, and it really makes for some awesome trading because you can kind of run the wheel strategy. You can buy a couple hundred shares down here and then just start selling some calls on the way up. And, if you sell the $40 call and then maybe go a little further out with maybe a 50 call after that, that'll be pretty good for you over the next couple of weeks if NEO starts to go back up. And, running that wheel strategy is always awesome to do. And I think NIO is a great opportunity for it.
Alrighty, so then we have Andrew saying OXY opening range forming. So there we go. So I know that anything with like energy has just been exploding lately, and OXY has been doing pretty well. It's definitely towards some pretty major resistance levels, like right around $33.50. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty hard level for it to break. And, honestly, I mean, I'm looking at crude oil a lot, and I've been watching it a lot over the past few days. I know that it's been really in the headlines as it's been breaking these type of couple year highs here around $77. But, if we start to see that actually break out above $80 a barrel, I think that'll just show that inflation is just going crazy. But honestly, I'm kind of waiting for a drop in crude oil. Crude oil has just been going straight up ever since we had that really bad time where crude oil was getting very, very low. I know the futures for that certain expiration kind of went negative there for those couple days. But, looking at crude oil now, I'm honestly just kind of waiting for it to come back down. You can tell that we're getting pretty overextended. And, once the inflation does slow down a little bit, crude oil should end up falling. But I'll really be watching this $80 resistance. If we break 80 to the upside, I think it'll be decent to play the oil stocks then. But as of right now, we're actually getting rejected at $80 pretty good on crude oil. So I'll be honest, I don't think I'd look at the oil stocks too much over the next couple of days with how much red's coming in here.
Yeah. And then we have Hunter saying Peloton is getting cheap too. So Peloton and Zoom have been struggling so much lately. Like I know Peloton has been holding its ground more than Zoom, but I guess you could say like two of the like go-to COVID plays have just been getting smacked. So either way, like I think they're both going to do great for like the long term, but yeah, they've definitely been selling off quite a bit. Hunter, what do you think about selling some puts on them? Let me know.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea, but there's a pretty good support down here, right at $80 a share. And look at how perfectly it's actually bounced to the upside off of this. If it holds $80, I mean, buying shares or shorting puts right here is definitely going to be an awesome way to go. And, the IV is up a little bit from a couple weeks ago even. So that helped a little bit too. Help you get a little bit better premiums than obviously a couple weeks ago. But I think there's a pretty good opportunity here on this support as well. And Peloton should be a pretty good company. They make those treadmills and different type like bicycle machines and stuff like that. So I think it could be great. And obviously they are right on that support. And I think that's just an awesome technical right now. And it's honestly making for a pretty good risk reward ratio. Like if you grab some shares of Peloton and you sold when they fell down below $80, like let's just say you sold at 78, but you end up having an upside potential all the way up to like 140 or something like that. That's just an insane ratio.
You know it. And then we have Iranical saying, I will not be surprised if AMD is at 110 today. So, yeah, it has a lot of momentum. I mean, 110 is pretty far out there. I think that it's pretty unlikely for that to happen. And the market is pricing in, let me get the probability of touching. So the market is pricing in like a 17% chance of AMD touching 110 by tomorrow at close. So, of course it's possible, but it's just unlikely. But hey, then again, AMD, it has a lot of momentum, so who knows?
Yeah, and I would almost rather target like $108 as being the high today. I know that's a pretty big resistance up there. So if I was trading it, personally, that's what I would target up there is 108 or even 107, honestly. Like if you got in at the breakout right here, if you got in right when we broke 105.50, I think 107 could be a good move too. And it also just depends on what type of expirations and stuff you're using. But I think 107 and 108 are going to be the levels to look at today.
Good stuff. All right, so we have Baba trying to break out, Tom. Like it's looking pretty good, and I think the chart looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, it does. I love the way it gapped up here. And there is some pretty big resistance right here around like 153 to 155. But I really feel like we might actually break this back to the upside. Like you said, lots of people have been looking at these a lot lately. And that news with It's Charlie Munger, right? Or is it Charles?
Charlie.
Charlie, yeah, Charlie Munger bought in, or he's buying into Baba again, and that's just awesome to hear. I mean, that's honestly like you said earlier, that guy's really critical in the stock market, and he's always done great in the past. So to hear that he's buying this dip is honestly pretty reassuring for me, and I might even grab some shares or maybe sell some puts as we start to go back up here.
I mean, look at Baba right now, Tom. It's exploding. Like intraday, it literally just exploded up.
Yeah, it did. We're at 152.77, broke that high. Look at this green candle coming in on the 1 minute, guys. This is just getting absolutely momentous here. And I just love to see it. I would love to see us come back up to that 153, 154 resistance. I think that we'll get there. We're not too far away. But man, Mike, like what do you think we could get to with Baba today? I mean, it already had this huge gap to the upside. Do you think that we could possibly break this like 154, 155 resistance, or you think it might take till tomorrow?
Uh, I think we could test 154 today.
Yeah, 154. We're about a point away from that. I know 155 is up there too, but I know it's always hard to guess those. But just trying to look at some levels for today, because man, this stock's really running. We're up 6% already, and yeah, wow, already up 6%. That's crazy to even say, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I love the momentum, and you know, even if you don't want to hold a China stock for the long term, that's okay. Like if when there's opportunity for a short term trade, sometimes it's good to strike on it. But either way, I'm glad that we've been in those Queb calls since like 2 days ago. So that was like great timing by you, Tom, and I'm excited to see how this like momentum progresses because normally with these stocks, it's not like you just see one green day and then like it's gone. Like a lot of times, like if it's trending up, like it'll trend up for a couple days, and if it's trending down, it'll trend down for a couple days.
Yeah, it almost looks like we're in a bit of like an inverse head and shoulders pattern here on the daily. And, this support at 44 is actually holding up very well for us. And, I know that you've been talking about these China stocks for a long time. So it was just seeming like such a great opportunity down here at the bottom, especially with all these bigger players starting to buy in and everything. Just seems really, really smart. And I know you've talked a lot about Queb lately. It's just an awesome ETF for Chinese stocks. And hopefully it really holds these supports and gets back up because I think we could have some pretty nice moves, especially like we kind of talked about. If we could break above like $50 over the next couple of days, I could see a really big move coming.
For sure. Alrighty, so we have Hunter saying he was looking at the Peloton 70 to 75 strike cash secured puts, but they do have earnings at the end of the month. So good catch right there. I didn't even see that. So yeah, I'm gonna probably wait till after earnings, but I don't think it'd be horrible to sell some puts before earnings. Like in the worst case scenario, you just buy the dip. So
yeah, and to be honest, I would definitely sell them before the earnings on this one because we're right at support, and that would be my main reasoning is just that main technical level right there. I think it'd be amazing, and I'm not too worried about those earnings because honestly, like if we have a great earnings with Peloton, we could end up gapping up like 10% or something crazy like that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Peloton's exploded in the past, so good stuff. We have George mentioning CHPT. So let's take a look. ChargePoint is doing pretty good. Finally, they're up 3% on the day. This stock has been struggling so much over the past couple months. I'm waiting for a pop back up.
Yeah, me too. And it looks like we actually are having a pretty solid bottom getting formed down here around $17 with CHPT. Yeah, it looks like around $17.50, but this movement back up is awesome to see. And if we start to see all these other recovery stocks starting to come back up like Blink, CHPT, etc., I think that they all could end up going up at the same time with some pretty big sympathy moves. And, looking at it right now, it looks like a pretty good move back up. And I'm not saying to buy the dip on this one yet. I feel like this one's a lot riskier than like DraftKings or, like a lot of stocks like that. But either way, it looks like it's turning back to the upside. And I even think it's more riskier than stocks like Peloton and stuff. But either way, I mean, it looks like it's turning back up pretty nicely. So if we can get back above $20, I'd like it a lot more.
Alrighty. So Corsair's even trying to pop off. They're up like 2% on the day. This one's been also struggling a lot, and I'm waiting for this one to get some momentum because I think they're a great company. I like their long-term growth potential, but at the end of the day, when there's no momentum in the stock, you can just see a chart like this where it just tries to go up, tries to go down, and it just does nothing. So I'm just waiting for like a nice catalyst to get this thing moving.
Yeah, and again, kind of like what we saw with Peloton, CRSR is also right on this 25 support, pretty key support level for them, and it's actually holding up pretty well so far. So yeah, I mean, I could see a pretty big move coming with these guys as well. And again, these guys have earnings on November 2nd, so it seems like that earnings season for these tech stocks is coming up pretty soon. So it sounds like as these stocks are at these bottom support levels, if we have a good earnings, that could maybe be the catalyst we finally need to maybe get these stocks to kind of get some good momentum back to the upside. Because, man, I know that they've just been getting beaten down and the earnings have not been helping them a lot lately. So hopefully we see some good outlooks maybe heading into Christmas or something.
Alrighty. So George also mentioned Run, which is one that's definitely on my watch list. I like the potential for this one as well. But Tom, I have a couple stocks that a lot of retail traders don't even look at, but I feel like they're at pretty good levels relatively speaking. And that's stocks like PG and Walmart. So I know they're value stocks. They don't have the same type of movement that you'll see with like a China stock or a tech stock like Apple or Microsoft. But they get in these trends where they might only rise by 0.7% a day, but they'll just rise by that much for like 2 months. So I do like the setup right now. Now, it's not my favorite setup in the world, but I'm really, really watching it like PG and Walmart for a potential play.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good way to go too. And Procter and Gamble is never a bad stock to add to your portfolio. Like if you guys are really loaded up with a bunch of tech stocks and other stocks like that, it's never bad to grab a stock like PG. They're in a bunch of different stuff, specifically more of like healthcare stuff, but they make a bunch of stuff, like from toothpaste to medicine to just about anything in that type of healthcare industry. So I think that would be a great company to add to your portfolio too. And just kind of going to look at Walmart. I feel like Walmart's a little bit better, like they've dipped a little bit more, but P&G, they are kind of up here around these highs. Mike, do you think that they still have potential to continue up? Because I know that like with us heading into these colder months and stuff, I've heard potential things about maybe some supply shortages with tissue paper and stuff like that. Again, I know that Costco is already like limiting people on that stuff. So that could be pretty big, if we start to see that market kind of go crazy again. I think PG could benefit pretty well from that.
Yeah, so I've been seeing a decent amount of smart money flowing into some of these stocks like PG, Walmart, and just stocks like that. Like I said, it's not my favorite setup in the world, but given that the smart money is getting into them, and given that they are at a relatively low price point, and then at the same time, I'm not sure if you remember this, but Michael Burry actually got into Walmart calls a little while ago. It hasn't been working out for him, but either way, I feel like they're at a decent level. Plus, when you see the smart money flow into them, they're definitely on my watch list. And I'm just excited to see like how they progress over like the next couple weeks or so.
Yeah, and I really like this 140 support or like 138 support, you could say, on PG, but it seems like it's holding that area pretty well. And I would not be surprised if we're at new highs pretty soon because, man, honestly, like the market's at pretty close to all-time highs too. And, it's only going to take us, if we keep having good days like this, it'll only take us a couple more days before we're at new highs with the SPY even.
Yeah, we shall see. It's been a wild market so far over the past couple months. But looking at everything, it looks like BABA is still going. Yeah, it's exploding up, Tom. BABA is up like almost, well, up, I guess you could say 6.5%. But this intraday movement's pretty solid. Lots of volume, lots of momentum. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to resort into this one for, just looking at the chart, seeing how low it is, relatively speaking. And, when you see a stock up 6.5% on the day, you're definitely going to have like a lot of, even like day traders jumping in.
Yeah, and I've already heard of a lot of people buying it up for their portfolios. And I know lots of people were even buying it whenever it was at like 190, 200 a share. So it seems like a pretty good stock for the long term, to be honest. And the main thing with them is we just need to keep that China news out of the headlines right now. That's going to be the main thing. If China comes out with more regulations or anything like that, obviously that's going to kill BABA in the short term. But hopefully they just stay away and they kind of back off for the next few months because I feel like these stocks could really recover back up. And, I love this 140 support on BABA. I really hope it ends up holding up. And, that gap up this morning, Mike, was pretty crazy. I cannot believe that we gapped from 144 all the way up to 150. But, it seems like every morning lately with BABA, there's been a gap one way or the other.
Yep. Alrighty, so AFRM is also continuing. They're up like 2.5% on the day, and they're running with a lot of momentum.
Yeah, and I've actually really liked this one the past few days, Mike. I feel like this stock has a lot of potential, and I know it's a super risky stock, and it's definitely meant for quick in and out day trades. I'm not saying to buy this one and swing it or anything like that, but I love the momentum on it. If it breaks that high of yesterday at 138.88, I feel like you could get a pretty decent move. Now, be careful of the 140 resistance, but if we break that, kind of like what we saw yesterday, once we finally broke that 121 resistance, we had a huge move to the upside. And I feel like that could possibly happen today. If we break 138.88, we might see another big move up. Like I said, be careful of that 140 resistance. And this stock's going to be super risky. So, only trade it if you know what you're doing, if you know how to get in and out of these day trades very, very quickly. That's the only scenario I would trade this one. But either way, I feel like there's a lot of momentum. And if you do see it break out, if you catch it at the right time, it could definitely be a good play. And, they've had good deals with Walmart and Amazon lately. So it's really been helping their stock.
Yep. Alrighty. So looking at the market, like what are you watching? I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise. What are some of your favorite setups right now?
Yeah, I know we haven't talked about this one in a few days, but I'm really eyeing up Penn Gaming right now. They're at a pretty good low. They've been dipping down a little bit here, and I feel like they could end up coming back up pretty nicely. It looks like a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders here. We have a bottom support on the stock down here around, you could say like $62, and we're kind of like in the middle of the range right now at like $76 to $80. If we could get a nice breakout up above 80 with Penn, I'd love to see it back to the upside. And we're seeing a pretty nice turnaround day with them today, and they're holding that support at 71. So it seems like a pretty good play. It might not be good for today, but it might be good for the next few days, honestly. And, they've been getting beaten down a lot, kind of like with WINN, and both of those stocks are actually coming up pretty well today.
Awesome. Alrighty, so looking at everything, of course we talked about BABA a lot, but I think it's good that you mentioned Win because they're at a pretty good level as well. And then even Peloton and Walmart are slowly creeping up there. But one I really wanted to take a look at was GM. They had some really good news lately, and they've been like on a slow uptrend for like the past, I guess you could say the past month or so. And I just feel like a lot of people sleep on this one, of course it doesn't have the hype like Tesla because, GM didn't, 10x in like the past couple years, but either way, like they are making a lot of like effort to like switch to like the more like to like adapt, to like what's changing in the market. Like they're doing a lot of things to like accommodate electric vehicles and all that stuff. So either way, I just feel like a lot of people kind of sleep on them, and there is an opportunity with them. And I feel like that selling puts can be a pretty good strategy on this one.
Yeah, I think so too. If you could get shares somewhere around $50, I think that would be an amazing thing for a stock like General Motors. And I think you're right. People are really going to be sleeping on General Motors and Ford for the next 2 years. Those two companies are not going anywhere. And it seems like they're both like moving in sympathy with each other back to the upside. And I think that they're both going to do great. I know GM came out with that awesome news just a couple days ago where they pretty much said that they're expecting their revenue to double by 2030, which is awesome to hear. Obviously, if they can double their revenue, that would be awesome for any type of company. So that should honestly bring some growth into the stock. Maybe not in the short term, but definitely over the longer term. And, I really like it. And as they start to innovate and they kind of get into that EV sector, I feel like they could have a lot of potential, Mike. Like you said, I think lots of people are going to be sleeping on General Motors, Ford, and just a lot of these companies that are already kind of established. And actually, Ford's having a pretty nice pop back up today, up 3.5%. I was honestly expecting General Motors to do a little bit better today, Mike, after that great news with that revenue yesterday.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm not saying they're doing bad, though. They're honestly set to break out over the next few minutes.
Yeah, for sure. It was so volatile yesterday. Like it exploded up for like a minute or two yesterday, and it came right back down. So I don't know,
Let's go look at that
place,
actually.
But it's definitely trending in the right direction right now. And then looking at my scanner really quickly, we're having a lot of stocks explode to the upside. Looking at everything, what's your opinion on the overall market right now? We had the SPY popping up. We are now back above 440. What are your thoughts?
Personally, I feel like that we might be in a little bit of an uptrend again now. I love how the market sat at this double bottom, or you could say almost triple bottom here for a few days around this 427 support. And I love the way that we broke back out of this range to the upside. We also broke out above that 1,000 SMA, which is going to be right around that 436 support now. So I would think that with the market popping, and since we broke 440 today, I would think that we might be able to get a nice pop up to 444 over the next couple of days. And it might not happen today, but I would say maybe like by tomorrow morning or something, I could see the market hitting 444 and maybe then consolidating a little bit from there. But I really feel like that with the way stocks are moving this morning, we could have a pretty good move back to the upside. And, we're seeing lots of stocks up from big tech stocks like AMD to even just these smaller stocks like NIO, CHPT. The growth stocks are up, the tech stocks are up. Honestly, it's just a great day overall. Some of the only stocks that are down for me are like Tilray, Netflix, and Lucid Motors. Besides that, my whole watch list is green. And honestly, it's just, to me, I could see the market going up quite a bit. I love how we broke out of this range, and maybe we'll come back down and maybe retest the 436 support before going up more. But I could definitely see 444 over the next couple days.
Gotcha. So the way I feel about the market is I'm not necessarily like bearish where, everything's going to crash and burn, but I'm not bullish. I'm just neutral on tech stocks, if anything, slightly bearish on tech stocks, and I'm pretty bullish on some of these recovery plays. So whether it be RCL, Boeing, you could even say DraftKings, even some of these plays that are just beaten down. Like, I feel like tech stocks are not the move right now, but instead, like, when you can get DraftKings at 50% off its all-time high, or Redfin, or Palantir, or Corsair, like, there's a lot of stocks out there that have a bunch of growth potential, but they're still at low levels. So, like, DraftKings, RCL, Palantir, Corsair, Neo, RUN, Disney's not even bad. Like those are some of my favorites right now. Boeing as well. So I think that some stocks are going to pop up a lot, and like tech stocks, I feel like, of course they're great companies. Like Apple's a great company, but I feel like given all of the deals we have in the market right now, I just feel like Apple's not the one to take. And hey, I might be wrong, but that's just my opinion. And I'd rather be dip buying DraftKings at like 48 than Apple at 144.
Yeah, me too. And whenever I'm talking about these, I'm talking more about for trades for the next couple days. I'm not talking about for long-term pickups or anything like that. I'm definitely talking more about, quick swing trades back to the upside, like with Apple here. I know lots of people are going to be looking to play, maybe some, I know it's not the smartest thing in the world, Mike, but people love to play those weekly expirations. And, whenever you look at stuff like that, I know that some of these stocks like Apple and stocks like that, they love to bounce off supports and stuff. So it can be decent if you're trading them for a couple days. Like Mike said, though, I'm not really looking at him to buy here for the long term or anything like that. I'm just looking for nice, quick plays up with the overall market. And my main thing is look at the SPY, Mike. We're almost up to 442 here actually on it. This is just actually some crazy momentum today. But, either way, I'm looking at a lot of these tech stocks just for quick moves up, like for good options plays, like with AMD and Apple. And then for CHPT and stocks like that, I'll just, maybe buy shares or sell the puts on those ones. But definitely, I really like those stocks like AMD possibly off that $100 support. But, we're definitely getting up to those resistance levels like at 108, but definitely meant for quicker trades rather than longer term trades and what I'm talking about.
All right, so let's take a look at VIAC. This stock has been struggling so much over the past year. I know that they had that Bill Huang got screwed over, and he was way over leveraged, so the stock sold off big time. But either way, they've just been in like a channel between like I guess you could say $38 and 42 or 45 for like the past couple months, and it gets like in this like weird channel for a while, but it can't just stay in here forever. So I'm eyeing it for a potential play to the upside, but it's not my favorite setup in the world, but I feel like it does have potential.
I do too. And I feel like this one just has to move eventually. Like I know they had that terrible situation, with all that GME stuff and everything like that going on that really hurt them. But, they're sitting right around $40. And I'll be honest, at least as long as they stay around 40, you won't be losing too bad at least. So at least they're staying right around that support. So that's the good news for it. To me though, it's a really crazy stock, and it might be good to add to your portfolio, but personally, I just don't like it just based on the movement, but it definitely has potential though. Like, man, if it could rise from 40 back up to these highs of like $90, obviously that would be an amazing move.
Alrighty, so Disney's even breaking out a little bit. DIS is up just under 2%. They are still below that 180 resistance, but let's say we break above 180, Tom. What are the next major levels to watch out for?
Yeah, and this is actually a really good scenario because as this stock gets to 180, it's also likely that the SPY will be getting close to it'll also be getting close to that 444 level. So I think that as we look at Disney, if we break above 180, I'm seeing a pretty good move to the upside back up to 182. I know that's only 2 points away from 180, but there's definitely a pretty big resistance right there. But I see a bigger resistance up here right around 186. But man, 180 is definitely going to be a pretty big resistance. And I would hope that over the next couple of days, we could break it because the setup's looking pretty good with Disney, especially with how it held its ground here at that 168 support. I think that was awesome that they held that area. And it does look like it's actually coming back up here over the next couple of days. It's coming back up kind of like with these other tech stocks, like, like Netflix and Walmart and, or I should say Netflix and Apple. But I would definitely think that like, maybe Netflix popping off lately might actually help Disney a little bit too, because, you would think that maybe Disney could start to, maybe come out with some good numbers for that Disney Plus streaming service and stuff like that. I know they don't have the new popular show on there, but who knows, maybe the Mandalorian will come out again or something like that. But either way, Disney looks pretty good on support, Mike. And this one's honestly one of my favorite longer term setups. And it's pretty safe too. Like it really fails to break below that 168 support.
Yeah, we shall see. So I know you mentioned AMD, and it's running pretty well. So I know that there's like a lot of overhead resistance on this one. What do you think for like a dip buy, or is this just like a short-term play? Like, how do you see this one playing out?
I liked it as a little bit more of a dip buy over the past couple days. Unfortunately, it failed to break below that 100 support, kind of like what we were playing for on that type of third move to the downside here. But once we saw it kind of move back up off of 100 for that fourth final time in a row, I was looking at it back to the upside. And my main thing is that I was really waiting for the SPY to break out above 436. And once that happened, I was really looking at AMD to kind of break out this morning as well, which actually happened pretty good today. And the day trade that I posted in the Discord actually would have worked out pretty great. And, as we're coming up though, kind of like what you said, there's a lot of overhead resistance, definitely a big one here at 107 and then right at 108. So I'd be really, really careful around these levels now. I thought it was awesome to get in as we crossed 105.50 this morning. That would have been an amazing time to enter in. But right now it might be a little bit too late for an entry so far this morning, but I was loving it off that $100 support in pre-market yesterday. And I was really hoping maybe for maybe a better opportunity to enter in today, because we did just pretty much go straight up. So that was the only unfortunate part, is you would have had to have catch the move pretty quickly. But hey, if you did catch it, it would have been a pretty nice setup. But, I'm with you, Mike. We're definitely getting back up to these resistance levels now. And I feel like the breakout can continue, but definitely make it break 108 first. I'd be really careful of that.
Alrighty, so very interesting. Looking at everything, we basically covered all the stocks that are moving in a big way so far. Some of the only stocks, some of the few stocks that are in the red today are actually some of the airlines and cruise lines. They are up a lot over the past month, but they're definitely struggling a little bit today, but they're still holding their ground overall.
Yeah, the cruise lines like RCL, CCL, unfortunately, they are kind of pulling back. And, these stocks were doing pretty well, Mike, while the overall market was falling down. What do you think the chances are possibly of these stocks maybe consolidating for a little while the market maybe slightly goes up or consolidates where it is maybe for a little bit. I know it's I know that would suck to see, but it kind of seems like that these stocks were ripping up while the SPY was down, and now the SPY is kind of going up and these stocks are falling. It almost seems like they're inversing the market over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of just do whatever they want. Their correlation right now is pretty low to the S&P. Like, I know some of the airlines have, like, correlation of, like, minus 0.75, which is a decent negative correlation. But, like, some of these cruise lines, like RCL, their correlation to the S&P is only, like, minus 0.48. So, like, they're, like, kind of negatively correlated, but sometimes they rocket when the market's up as well. So, I feel like they just do whatever they want, and it's more so about like the reopening news and like just stuff like that. So either way, like I still like them, but I'm not necessarily like expecting cruise lines and airlines to explode up when the market does, and that's both good and bad. Of course, on a day like today where everything's exploding up, we're gonna have a stock like Delta Airlines or Royal Caribbean down or not moving. And yes, that sucks to see when everything else is popping. But at the same time, when the market's not really doing anything and maybe it's down a little bit, and all of the other stocks are in the red, we might see this one up 2 or 3%.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing to look at is just that these stocks have really exploded over the past couple of weeks, and I would not be surprised if like RCL came back down to like maybe like the 82 support, maybe retested it, and then finally got that big breakout. I know that they've been really having some trouble here around this like 97 to $100 resistance. And I feel like that'll actually hold up pretty good as a pretty solid resistance until we see some pretty big news or something like that come out. But, hopefully we can see that big breakout pretty soon because, man, I know we've been waiting for it for a long time. And if we do see the stock come down, that would be a pretty big opportunity once again to get in around $80 again, if that does happen.
Awesome. So let's do another check back in. Or actually, give me 1 second. We have market coming in saying DraftKings pushing. So I actually just saw that. I was looking at the chart while we were just talking, Tom, and I don't know what's going on, but DraftKings had a huge buyer just come in right now. We can see it just exploded past that $50 resistance, and it's still looking pretty good. I love this stock for the long term. I love it for some short puts, even for some like call leap options. I love this setup, so definitely keep that one on your radar. We have Vicky coming in saying, hit the like button, guys. So, guys, if you could hit that like button, Tom and I would greatly appreciate it. It only takes like 2 seconds, and it helps us out so much. But, Tom, we have some of these, like we talked about earlier in the stream, some of these value stocks pushing up. Pepsi especially, like KO and Pepsi, they move basically the same. But it's been a while since we saw some good momentum with these ones. So, Pepsi's also on my radar, and over the past couple of days, like it's really running with earnings.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, those are two pretty big candles out of a value stock like Pepsi. Like we have not seen a move like this ever since like July or even going all the way back to March. I mean, man, that's a pretty good move there off that 150 support. And like you said, those earnings went pretty well for them, and it looks like they might be pushing up to all-time highs pretty soon. And I would not be surprised if we did. This is a very slow and steady stock. And, it almost reminds me of a PG chart, like kind of like what we talked about earlier with Procter and Gamble. It's kind of bouncing off that support and kind of getting two awesome momentum plays back to the upside. And I feel like Pepsi actually does have some potential, Mike. This does look like a pretty solid setup here. And, we are getting close to some of these resistances, but man, with this momentum, I would not be surprised to see a breakout soon.
Alrighty, good stuff. Baba's up 7% on the day. Still going, Tom. Like, ever since open, so many people are just flocking into this one. And, it gets in, like, these trends where you'll have a ton of buyers coming in or you'll have a ton of sellers coming in. It's not like one of those stocks like Corsair where it's, like, half and half. Like, Baba, it's like all or nothing almost, Like, it's either big uptrend or big downtrend.
Yeah, and we see that happen a lot lately with Baba, and I don't know what's going on with the big gap ups and gap downs that they always have in pre-market and after hours. But man, I'm glad to see him actually running today with the market open, and it's just awesome to see a nice recovery with them. And I cannot believe that they're back up above 150 a share. This what an amazing run this morning. And, Baba's just had that awesome news with Charlie Munger kind of buying in for more shares and stuff. So that's just amazing news. And I'm glad to see him running up like this. I mean, I feel like we've been waiting for a long time for this one, and it's finally starting to kind of go in our direction. And, just it's such an amazing setup here. And there's such good potential for the long term here. I think, anytime you see Baba around this key 150 support that it's bounced off of like 8 times over the past few years, it's definitely a good level.
Alrighty, so even some of these solar plays are looking pretty good. I know a lot of them have been getting smacked, like FSLR, like you pointed out, but also Enphase is looking good, RUN's looking good, and then even like the solar ETF, TAN, it's starting to look pretty good. So for these ones, for me, it's more of just like a long-term like dip buy type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I would do too. And like if you like I talked about this maybe in a couple streams ago or a couple videos ago, but whenever you're looking at these stocks like Blink, CHPT, RUN, like Mike said, it's going to be pretty much like a dip buy. So if you have like let's just say for example, a $10,000 account right now, it doesn't hurt to just put like a couple grand maybe into a couple of these stocks. They could really end up popping off in the long term, and maybe just put a couple grand in these and then maybe just trade around with the rest of your money or something like that, or maybe sell some puts on these. That could be an amazing way to go. If you guys want to learn that, definitely check out the links in the description down below. But man, I mean, I just think it's an awesome scenario right now. And for the longer term, I don't think you can go wrong with these stocks, Mike. And, I know that they just keep getting beaten down, but, I really feel like that these stocks have potential for the long term. And, like we know that this EV market is not going anywhere. Like Ford and GM have talked about half of their fleets being all electric by like 2025 and, weird stuff like that. And if that really is the case, these companies like RUN, CHPT, BLNK, stocks like that are really set to explode up. And I would definitely, consider adding some of these to your long-term portfolios. If not, or maybe just sell some puts, that could be a good way to maybe, potentially get shares, at least if they don't go up.
Yep, no doubt about that. Looking at everything, Tom, we basically covered all of the hot stocks today. Do you have any last minute stocks you're watching or any important news you're looking out for?
I was really looking at a lot of news earlier today, and let me just kind of get on CNBC really quick to make sure nothing else, nothing crazy came out yet. Yeah, I mean, nothing too much came out. Jobless claims post sharp decline to 326,000, which is actually better than expectations. So I'm sure that's kind of helping the market up this morning. And, I was really keeping my eye on a lot of these oil stocks, honestly, looking at them almost back to the downside. And I know we were looking at them a lot and they had a lot of momentum to the upside earlier this week, but, they almost remind me of like the cruise lines and the airlines. Like now that the market is kind of flying back up, these oil plays are not really doing anything right now. So I honestly be eyeing these up maybe for a good play to the downside. But like we talked about earlier, I'm really watching the SPY. I loved how it broke out above that 436 resistance. And I'll really be watching for it to maybe come back up and hit 444 or something like that over the next couple days. Not saying we're going to get a huge move up to that right now, but I could definitely see it maybe later today or tomorrow.
Good stuff. So thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had a ton of movement this morning, and it looks like the volatility is not going to slow down. So lots of opportunities across the board. Thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.